Welcome in, folks, for this week's episode of What's Bruin. I am joined, as always, by the one and only Dom Tiano. I'm your host, Chris Nozick. Dom, what a brutal road trip for the Bruins.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. That draft pick just keeps getting better and better and better.
Oh, man.
Buffalo won today. They beat Washington. It's just, a point back now. They have 2 games in hand. Going to move up another spot.
Oh, man. Who would have thought that a legitimate option for a top 5 pick would have been on the table coming into this season?
I don't know. If anybody gets that, they better buy a lottery ticket.
I know, right? Welcome in, Kevin, as always, jumping in the chat. We're looking forward to seeing what folks have to say and commiserating with some folks. Bruins made a bit of roster moves today. We've got Lohrei? Not Lohrei. It was
Lohrei and Brown were sent down.
Lohrei and Brown were on waivers, and then Callahan and Lysell were sent down.
Yeah, I think Lysell, it's Lysell and Callahan. It's just a paper transaction because they were emergency call-ups, so they could be switching them over to regular call-ups.
Do they have to send them down to do that? I didn't think they had to.
Yeah, it has to be a paper transaction, usually done the same day.
Yeah, I wonder if Callahan might be staying down there just because McAvoy might be making a return for the next game or something. But I mean, I haven't seen anything out of Lysell's game to warrant sending him back. I'd want to see him continue coming up, and he got 8 games left.
I want to see him finish out the year. And as for McAvoy, they better not bring him back.
Well, if he's healthy, don't they have to?
If he's cleared by doctors, yes.
That's the technicality.
But no, because he's not on LTIR, so they can just sit him out.
Okay. So it's LTIR they have to worry about.
Yeah.
Getting the doctor to sign off on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, then maybe Callahan is just a paper transaction as well. But, I mean, I hope we get Lysell back up as a full recall. Let's see. Buffalo, James mentioned the Buffalo win. Top 5 easy for the pick. David is asking on behalf of Mason Lohrei, when will be next public skate at Boston Garden?
Tomorrow, isn't it?
I believe so. Or no, they have until Tuesday, I think. I believe their next game is on Tuesday.
Public skate, though. He's asking about the public skate.
Yeah, so practice would be at Warrior. But Johnny mentions, speaking of Lysell, he joined the team on the road. He's going to play again this season. You would think. I mean, they were also Dom and I talked about it last week. They were going to bring some extra bodies on the road trip. They did need them. So, I don't think he would be excluded unless they look at this mess and they say, we're not getting any of the kids, Poitras, Lysell, Merkulov, Minton. We don't want any of these kids to be involved in whatever's going on in this locker room right now. So, he's talking McAvoy. Do you think that means anything, like McAvoy traveling with the team?
Not necessarily. It could just be a thing just to get him on the ice, just skating, back with the boys. Obviously he brought some good feelings to the guys in the dressing room. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play. I don't think he should play. Why risk anything now?
Yeah, if there's a way that they can keep him out of it, I would. That would just be the best option, I think, for all parties involved. So it just doesn't make much sense to rush him back. Give Hampus as much time as they can to prepare for next season, just to come in healthy. I mean, obviously losing those two this year, as much as we were in it 3 weeks to go even a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. The loss of those two was just something they can't overcome. So, but David also asks, Lohrei is an RFA. What do you expect for term and dollars on his next contract?
I expect 3 to 3.25 million on a 2-year bridge deal.
That would make sense. I would do something. I mean, there's really no contract other than a massive payday for long term. But I mean, what are you going to do? Offer him the Brock Faber contract? Like, and even then,
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. Boston's not known for doing that for guys that are this young. It just doesn't. It doesn't fit what they usually do. So I'm with you. It ends up being a bridge deal, I think. James asks, does sending Brown and Lohrei through waivers mean that they might be giving other Providence players a look or signing a college free agent to replace them? I rule out the college thing for right now.
Let's take it one step at a time. Clear up some of the garbage that's out there. First of all, I know that there's those in the media that said that they would make some good depths to a play or add some good depth to a playoff team. First of all, if they are claimed, they are ineligible to play in the playoffs because they were not on the team's roster or reserve list on trade deadline day. That is the eligibility to play on the playoffs. So Toronto or Florida or Edmonton or whoever cannot put in a claim on them and use them in the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, if you look at all the college players that have signed so far, I believe it's under 10 that have actually signed an NHL contract. There's about 80 that have signed AHL contracts or other pro contracts. There isn't a player out there worth bringing in now to sign them to an NHL contract and have them burn off a year. Whether it's Bancroft or Hughes or whoever the so-called higher caliber players, none of them are burning a year off their entry-level contract. So the answer to the second part or the college part, no.
Yeah. I mean, we're not exactly like we're going out and signing Ryan Leonard.
Right.
So that's the kind of player like Michigan State goaltender Trey Augustine. He could potentially be added to Detroit for, whatever. But that's a whole other thing. Those are the kinds of guys that you're looking at, not the undrafted guys. So that just doesn't make any sense. I actually think that Lohrei and Brown being sent back down to Providence is more of an indictment on what's going down in Providence right now. They finally clinched on the third, fourth, fifth attempt their spot in the Calder Cup playoffs. They've had a rash of injuries up front, and I mean, DiPietro is clearly going through something right now because he got hurt like a week ago before their road trip, and he played on the road trip, but then they signed a random guy down in Charlotte for the second game to back up Brandon Bussey, and DiPietro hasn't played since. So there's an injury bug going around Providence. I think these guys are going down there to kind of help resituate what's going on down there for their playoff run. As far as calling somebody else up, I could definitely see, a guy like Matthew Poitras getting a call back because he will go back for the playoffs. And, there's a few other guys. I mean, I'd love to get John Farinacci a look up at the big club.
But he's injured too.
Yeah, he's one of the, unless he's getting close to returning. But, I mean, you got a couple days till your next game. So get these guys through. Providence gets a little bit of help. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some guys get called up, though, for their next game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Um, but we'll see. Time will tell.
And just real quick, because this is a quick question from Johnny: Could Lohrei play in the AHL playoffs without waivers? No,
No.
no. He's played in too many NHL games to get through waivers, or to not require waivers. So, um, what about Brunet? As in,
Frederick Brunet
I was just say,
as
as a
as a
defensive
call
center.
up. Um, Look, I followed the kid more than most, or longer than most, and I would say no. I right now leave him in Providence. They slapped a letter on his jersey today. Uh, let him just keep building his game. Um, and he's just going to get eaten alive at the NHL level. He's just building confidence more and more with each passing game, each passing shift in Providence. I don't want to mess with that. If he was
Yeah,
a forward, I would think about it, but not on the blue line, not on this team.
yeah. I don't see anybody on the blue line. Like the only guy that I would really on the blue line sit there and say, get him up, get him in a game, or not even necessarily in a game, but let him watch the team from an NHL perspective. Depending on where you think he could go, would be Gallagher, but he doesn't even have an NHL option in his contract because he's just on the tryout. So, you know,
No, Brunet's on an NHL contract.
no, I know. I'm saying Gallagher.
Oh, Gallagher,
Because
yeah.
I think Gallagher would benefit from a trip up just to kind of what I mean, like get a little bit of that exposure for a game or two, and then send him back down to be like, okay, now you know what you need to do for next season. But again, he doesn't have that option in because he's on the tryout. So
Yeah, I would. With these young defensemen, if they were forwards, yeah, but the defensemen, Gallagher's played what, 5 pro
yeah,
games? I'm
again,
not bringing him up.
the
Um,
only one I could think of to do that with on the blue line would be him. But even then, that's a super long shot. So it's it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, forward is where you would want to look for a transaction like that. Um, maybe you bring up Lysell and Poitras to see what they can do together. I don't know. We'll get more moves though. Rob is asking about the people who are talking about or screaming to trade Jeremy Swayman because he struggled this year. Thoughts on Swayman having a bounce back season next year?
it's funny because 2 weeks ago I said Swayman needs to take the off season and reset. Just goes to prove how many people watch this show because the talk afterwards from other media, uh, a week or so later was Swayman needs the off season to reset.
Yep.
And I'm not making any rash moves because what we've seen this season from Jeremy Swayman is not the Jeremy Swayman we know and what we think he is capable of. So I'm not making rash decisions on him. You're only going to get pennies on the dollar if you do trade him.
Yeah.
Pennies.
I also don't think people realize what he has been in the course of his development up until this season. We all can admit this season has not been a good one for him
It
by any
hasn't for
stretch.
anybody. The
Yeah,
only one you could say, and even then I'm hesitant, is Morgan Geeky because he started off like shit. Even David Pasternak started out like shit. Like no one from start to finish has had the type of season anybody expected.
right. And when when you talk about Jeremy Swayman, the last time in his life he had a sub 900 save percentage was all the way back in 2010, 2011 when he was playing 14U AA. So this isn't who he is as a goaltender either. His numbers are going to be based off of some of what's going on in front of him. Everybody struggled. You just got to give him the offseason. Let everybody get the hell away from it and then regroup coming into next year. TOR wants to know what our thoughts are on Neely's interview with, I believe it was the Globe. I think he's right on that. I think it was Connor Ryan's interview. basically where he said everything's on the table. Thoughts on that? I like it.
You know what? It's probably the thing that has come out of Neely's mouth in the last half dozen years that I liked the most. He was honest, he was straightforward, and for once, him and I are in agreement on what needs to happen.
What, with everything on the table?
Yeah.
Matrix, I think we all enjoy a good Dom swear bomb.
Did I swear?
I didn't. I mean, I must not have heard the word, but
I got the baby sleeping in the next. By the way, if you hear a baby crying, I got to get up. Okay, just for a minute.
And real quick, absolutely not, David. I am not going after an injured Thatcher Demko at all. I am avoiding him like he's got the plague. All right, dude has to learn how to replay the entire position based on the injury that he had. And between the two of them, when Swayman's on his game, Swayman is 10 times the goaltender Demko is. I avoid Demko, one, because I don't want to pay to get him. Two, it's a waste of spot and way too much money to bring in on your goaltender when you already have Swayman. And three, the guy's injured and not the same as what he was even 3 years ago. Stay away from him.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Do you have anything to add to that, Don?
No, I totally agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But he does also ask, do the Bruins go through trade to get a number one center overall in the offseason? And then should Bruins pursue Jamie Benn from the Stars? I don't think Jamie Benn wants to leave Dallas. I think he re-signs at a discount rate for them.
Agreed. And as far as trading for a number one center, with what assets? That's my number one question.
With who? Which number one center are you looking at? Who's going to trade one for you?
And two, I'm staying the course. It's keep tanking and get one in the draft, because you're going to get a number one center in the draft if you're picking top five.
I go into the offseason and I look at our team and I say, okay, what else can – I don't want to say strip away, because it makes it seem like I'm trying to, continue to get worse. But I look at the options to see, can you get rid of, one more contract, whether it's Elias Lindholm, whether it's Hampus Lindholm, whether it's Pavel Zacha, just one more of those longer-term contracts at semi-decent money. I do think you can find a partner even for Elias Lindholm. And let's not forget, for a guy like Elias Lindholm, you can retain on the contract. You have spots opening, and the cap is going up. So if you can get out from a contract like that, take this opportunity, honestly. And actually, I know it takes forever, but the buyout, the dollar amounts aren't that bad if you look at that option too. But you're not buying someone out for a 14-year penalty.
No.
Brandon asks, could you see the Bruins trading down at the draft, even if just a few spots, if their guy is still on the board? Brandon,
that high, it's very unlikely that your player is still going to be on the board. What I would do, because to me, Matthew Schaefer is unquestionably the number one player in this draft. He's a future elite franchise defenseman. And if you're picking number one, let's say you win the lottery and you pick number one, San Jose picks number two, and Chicago picks number three, as an example. What does San Jose need and what does Chicago need more than anything?
They both need young defensemen to go with their core.
Right. So I would say to them, look, you want Matthew Schaefer? Let's make a deal. We'll trade down. Because at 2 or 3, you're getting a number one center anyway. The highest bidder gets them. You pick up extra assets, plus you still get your future number one centerman.
Yep.
That's the way I'm playing it.
Yep, and honestly, if neither one wants to make a deal while you're on the clock, you can just take Schaefer and say, well, let's keep talking. Because Schaefer can get you that number one defenseman. And if you take the kid, now you have 30 other teams. So they'll do a deal in that 10-minute window.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes, right? When you're on the clock. Something like
Yeah,
that.
I think you get a 5-minute timeout.
Something like that. They'll make a deal in that time frame just so that they don't have to compete with 30 other teams to do it.
Yeah. What's going to be tougher to make deals is GMs won't be face to face. You can't walk to another table and have a discussion like we saw Brian Burke and Peter Chiarelli back in the day, or others, because the teams will be virtual.
Yeah. James says, I know this is more prospect related, but would you guys prefer Booyah from Maine or drafting a guy like Medvedev or Ivankovic? You know me, Dom. I've been saying for weeks they need to do something to address goaltending depth. I would sit here and go, why not do both?
Exactly. And somebody asked me today, at what point would I draft Medvedev? I would take him with the third round pick if he's there. I could be considered, or I could be convinced to use the pick acquired from Colorado, which is either it's the worst of Carolina pick or the New York Rangers pick in the second round. So as of today, it looks like Carolina. So that'll be a late second. You've already got a second round pick from St. Louis, I believe it is. No, who's?
I'm pulling it up right now.
But I would consider using that pick to draft Medvedev. I would take Medvedev before Ivankovic. He's ranked ahead of him in my books.
You have St. Louis and Carolina as of right now. And then obviously, a few extra the extra first rounder next season. If you can take one at a decent pick, I mean, most goalies aren't taken in the first round, so you should be able to get a decent one added to your system. So
yeah, just to answer Michael's question on college free agents.
This one here?
Yeah, Michael, I wrote about it a week ago. Just go to Dom.Hockey. There's a list of about 15 of them that I thought the Bruins should target. Some of them have signed. You will even see which ones have signed. It's just for me to go through the whole list here takes away from other conversations we can have. But just go to Dom.Hockey. It's right there.
And we did a whole episode where we had one of McKean's scouts come on with us, and we reviewed a bunch of them and went over some of their scouting reports. So, yeah, I don't think the Bruins are done looking in that market. I think someone asked about him. I do think Dan Slotch-Mellis is going back to UMass next year. His game could use a little bit more polishing at the NCAA level. But then again, you're set to have a bunch of internal competition. Yes.
Just quickly, Michael, the link to that podcast that Chris is talking about is in the article, so you can catch that as well.
Oh, perfect. But yeah, they're not done in the free or in the college realm. I also think you'll see them wait until we get. I mean, we're almost down to the Frozen Four. Once the Frozen Four are done, then you'll probably see a few more guys get taken from that group. So, TOR says draft a center versus trade for one. Look what happened with Lindholm this year. No thanks. Is there an RFA the Bruins can target via trade at the draft or free agency?
None that we're aware of, but it's the end of March. We got till the end of June. Things can change.
Yeah, not to mention that, you look at a guy like JJ Peterka, I believe he's a pending RFA. Like, do you really want to put out there a contract that Buffalo can just turn around and match and negotiate for them? Like, it was a big conversation when we had the RFA conversations about Jeremy Swayman. Half the reason why you don't see offer sheets is because you don't want to do negotiating for someone else. Just doesn't make any sense.
Right. Absolutely.
David also asked this question here: if Bruins hire a legit coach, does Mason Lohrei see the ice? Dave, do you want,
Yes,
or Dom, do you want to repeat what you said?
absolutely. He sees the ice. The best thing that could have happened to Mason Lohrei, as much as we hate injuries, is the injuries to Lindholm and McAvoy, because now he's thrown into every situation, and he has to learn to adjust. That doesn't happen overnight. You know, when you scout a player, compare Matthew Schaefer to, let me pick a defenseman here for the draft. Evan Passmore of the Barrie Colts. Okay. So we know what Schaefer is. We don't know what Passmore is. We want to see him in every situation possible. Playing 20 minutes a night, playing 25 minutes a night. And he's going to suck because he's not Matthew Schaefer. Absolutely, he's going to suck because he's never done this before. But what you're hoping to see is some kind of steady improvement. It may not go up on an arc like this. It may only go up on an arc like this. But as long as you're seeing it, it's accomplishing what it is set out to do. I guarantee you, Mason Lohrei will be a better defenseman next year because of all the struggles he's having this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Ryan, I see the comment there. Don't worry. We're talking some prospects today as well. We'll go over that a little bit more after, but yeah, questions on some of the prospects aren't bad for this episode as well. Yeah, this year is all about growth for Mason Lohrei. Once you knew those two guys weren't coming back, you wanted to see him on the PK. You honestly wanted to see him on the penalty, on the power play PK, get him to 25 minutes a night. That's how he's going to learn, and he will be a better long-term player because of it. And Dom, as you have said countless times, and I'm sure you still believe it, within what's your projection now? Maybe 2 more years? Mason Lohrei will be a better defenseman than Noah Hannafin?
Yep.
So it's
nothing I've seen to tell me otherwise. Because
yeah, exactly. And
for as small as it is, I still see the progression.
Yeah, and as ridiculous as it is, I constantly see people saying maybe we should turn Mason Lohrei back into a wing. No. He's learning defense and he's getting better at it. So just let the kid keep learning. You got 8 games left this year, and you're able to review a lot more tape with him going into next season. So just keep going with this plan. Ryan does want to know how high we are on Will Zellers. So kid looks fucking great.
He looks fantastic. I don't think he's going to finish 4 years of NCAA hockey. I pretty much would bet anything on it. Looked great again today. Goal and 2 assists. Looked great yesterday. A pair of goals. I said this immediately after the trade because there were some fans that there are some fans that were bummed that they didn't get somebody else in the deal, and as opposed to Zellers. I'm more than happy with Zellers. I don't think he tops out as a first line player. I think he tops out as a second line, but you need players on all 4 lines.
Yep. And all 3 D pairings, they all serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So I do want to get back to one of the other questions, but we were talking about Lohrei. David said that Lohrei is embarrassing. Never, after watching decades of Bruins hockey, have I seen such sickening play. Lohrei has hurt our team, and follows it up with, how could he still be learning? He's 26 and over 100 games. So, Dom, how long has Mason Lohrei been a defenseman in his life? Like 4 years, maybe?
I think this is his 6th.
This is his 6th. So, not only did he have to learn the position, but he also had to do it moving up levels incrementally better each time. Like, yeah, he's only 26. He's only 26. So at 20 years old, he switched from a forward to a defenseman. It's going to take time. You have to have some patience with him. Yeah, he's hurt our whole team this year, but guess what? So is every other player on the fucking roster. Like, why do you think Charlie Coyle's not here? Why do you think Brandon Carlo's not here? Brad Marchand's not here? Because everyone on the roster this year hurt this team. Not just on Mason Lohrei.
All I will say is David's entitled to his opinion. David was a big fan of Justin Brazeau, and Minnesota is wondering what the heck was Bill Guerin doing making that trade.
I'm sure Bill Guerin's wondering what the hell we were doing asking for 3 pieces back in that trade at this point. I don't miss Justin Brazeau, though. So, let's see. Brandon, here it was. Has Cole Koepke done enough to get a contract offer this offseason?
No.
I was going to say, not from the Bruins, I don't think. I don't know why you would bring Cole Koepke back when you've seen the growth that you've seen in someone like Jeffrey Viel. I really think you can bring Jeffrey Viel up from Providence next year and get roughly what you're getting out of Cole Koepke this year.
If not
possibly
more.
Even a little more offense, yeah. So, let's see. Michael says, with Lohrei and Brown on waivers, do Tuffy and Pitlick come up? I don't think Pitlick is going to get the call up. I think you're going to reignite him with Brown to try and reestablish the leadership aspect of what you had down in Providence to keep that locker room under control. Tuffy is a little bit more interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Pitlick, for all he's done, he started off on an AHL contract. He's been great for Providence, so they gave him an NHL contract. You know what? Call him up for a game and let him earn an NHL check for a week. That's my thing. You got to reward. You got to reward these guys for being what they've been to the organization, albeit at the Providence level.
Yeah, again, I'm not against it. I just know that if you've watched Providence, they're kind of going through an identity crisis a little bit with all the injuries and stuff. Now, granted, they've also thrown some new guys in the mix. Gallagher's gone in there. They got Schmaltz in there now. They brought Minton in. So there's some shakeup in there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that.
I just want to go back to this comment by, is it David?
Yeah, by David. Yeah. I 26 didn't sound right, but I wasn't trying to. That was.
I don't care about the age. Over 100 games. I don't care about the age. I care about the over 100 games comment. Some of the brightest minds and defensemen to ever play the game: Scotty Bowman, Sam Pollock, Dennis Potvin, Ray Bourque, have all said you can't judge a defenseman on less than 200 NHL games.
There we go.
You can't argue with minds like that, David. If you want to judge him based on 100 games, you go ahead. Like I said, you're entitled to your opinion. But I'm going to take the opinion of some of the most respected minds and players to ever play the game.
Yeah, I'll lean that way myself. James has a great question here. Would you want to bring back Husadinov for third line left wing duties? I want to bring him back and see where he can fit in the top 9.
Yeah, I would bring him back for third. Anything higher than that.
If it's anything higher than that, you either royally fucked up your offseason or the kid fucking earned it. It's one of those two things. So, Rob has a great question too. How much will Geeky's contract be for?
That's a tough one. That is really, really tough. Um, Fortunately for the Bruins, they hold all the cards because he's arbitration eligible.
Yeah. I could see a multi-year deal, like a 4 or 5 year contract. I wouldn't go any further than 5 years. I do think you could sell him on a 4 year contract because that would bring him till his age 30 season. Um, and somewhere between 4 to 5.5 million is where I think that AAV would come from or come about. Or you could just say, here's the qualifying offer, and we'll see where that goes. We'll see where you're at next year. But then you run through the whole thing again. You know he can play with David Pastrnak, so I don't see why you would upset that chemistry next year. That's one of the one lines you'll be able to rely on. And honestly, it looks like it doesn't really matter who their center is. You can put Middlestead in there, and you could put Zacha in there. Obviously, it's been a little bit better with Zacha. So I did see this too, Michael. He said Cole Spicer's entering the transfer portal. Any idea where he might land? Dom, have you heard anything?
No.
Yeah, that's definitely one to
Nope.
keep an eye on. So, did Brezo hurt us? Definitely not a minus 33. Brezo definitely hurt us. I'm surprised he didn't get hurt more with how much he played the game on his ass. Any idea on vets the Bruins might add in the offseason? Missing leadership was huge this year.
It's too early to tell. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, there's a free agency list now, but any one of those players could sign before July 1st.
Yeah, and let's face it, Matt Duchene is not negotiating his contract during the middle of a playoff push.
No.
John Tavares, same thing. Mitch Marner, same. You might see a Ryan Donato sign in 2 weeks when Chicago's regular season is over because they're not in the playoffs. But there's really no one here on the list that jumps out on a team that's going to be eliminated or stop playing in 2 weeks where you're like, it's got to be him. It's got to be him. There is no Mark Savard, Zdeno Chara offseason this year. There isn't.
No.
Let's see. Hopefully they reward Frederick Brunet with some NHL games. It could happen. Thoughts on Minton so far? He played well on the faceoff dot last night. Fraser Minton has looked really good in Providence.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen people calling him up or trying to push for him to get called up, then you've been living under a rock. But I don't think he's quite there yet. He will make a very good push for it next preseason. So that remains to be seen. David, look at where the team is this year. Every player on the roster hurt this team. No one
David,
is
honestly, no disrespect. Like I said, you're entitled to your opinion, but don't address me with an opening sentence of whatever when I address you back. I respect your opinion. If you don't respect mine, then fucking leave. I'm not forcing you to watch the show. Okay? Don't start a sentence out with whatever to me. I'm not asking you to be here. You came here on your own. Jesus fucking Christ.
And Dom, as you pointed out, we've had the conversations with other people in the game, and our opinion isn't just based off of our own eyes. It's through some of those conversations as well. So if you want to have those conversations with some of those people, David, and tell us that they said something otherwise, I would go back to that person and say, hey, this is what someone else said that you told them, and now you're stuck in the middle of something different. So Brian is asking, is Geeky's contract dependent on him playing without Pastrnak? No, I don't see why it would be. If you have both of them on this team, why are you know what they are together? Why are you separating them?
I'm sure they have a plan. I'm sure they've had discussions. They know where both sides stand. But That said, the roster is going to be in flux. We don't know who's coming in. We don't know who's going out. Somebody asked earlier, or I believe you mentioned you could see another contract going out. Could Geeky be that guy? Because really, they don't have
Possible.
enough. They don't have a lot of value they can trade.
Yeah, no, it could be Geeky. Um, I think they'll be looking at something a little bigger than that, knowing that Geeky needs to resign. So that's where I think that coming from. As Ryan says, personally, I think there's so much value in a player that your star meshes with. Hey, Ryan, if you want, my best example of this is comparable is Brian Rust. Brian Rust has been phenomenal next to Sidney Crosby his entire career. Those two have been on par, on the same page with each other for years. And if you go back and compare Brian Rust at the same age where Morgan Geeky is now, they're very fucking close. So I think that's a great comparable right now between those. So he also mentions trading Foligno really hurt the leadership on this team, especially after Bergeron. Foligno would have been the biggest leader role next to Marchand. Yeah, but you're not getting Foligno back. So you want to dwell on Foligno not being here, or do you want to figure out what the best option is moving forward? David says, I don't remember Brazeau handing the puck away to the opposing team. He couldn't hand it to him when he's on his ass. So have him win a board battle, and then we'll have the conversation. And yeah, we're defending Mason Lohrei because it is defendable. So Rob says, I read that Zellers may not be looking at going to a different school, possibly to Hockey East due to the change of coach at North Dakota. Who knows?
How many North Dakota players come out today and said that they're going back for another year because what's his name is taking over? I
Yeah, I
forget
know who
his
you're
name.
talking about. I know quite a few of them have said that too. So I know
I
this was a question for some, but I listen, Rob, Zellers chose to go to North Dakota because it's close to his family. I don't see that I don't see that changing because of the coaching change. It's not like they all, it's not like they're bringing in John Tortorella.
yeah.
I don't
No,
see that changing.
a lot of North Dakota players have committed to going back. One of the top free agent prospects, as soon as the new coach was hired, says he's no longer entertaining pro offers. He's going back to North Dakota for his junior season.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you ever see Bergeron or Chara involved in coaching or management within the next 5 to 10 years? That's a long time frame. um, you
I
really
see
don't
them
know.
in a. I can see Chara in a developmental role. I don't think he wants to get involved in coaching or management. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, but
Bergeron,
him working with McQuaid would be a great duo,
yeah.
though.
Bergeron, on the other hand, still has a young family. Um, in a couple of years, things may change, and he wants to get back into the game.
Yeah, I don't see him doing. I think he'll do more stuff with Nesson for right now. Um, just because it doesn't take up nearly as much of his time, and he clearly wants to spend some of that time with his family. So let him do that. We'll see as they get older though. So might be a dumb question, but would you trade geeky RFA rights and our first this year to potentially move up to second or third and get Misa or Higgins? Before you talk about trading up in the draft, trading down in the draft, find out where the hell you sit.
Yeah, wait till after the draft lottery.
So Kevin says, so when are they trading Hampus Lindholm? Kevin, if they do it, it could be around the draft. I'm not saying it's definitely happening. Oh, he said Hampus. I don't know if it's a typo or if he's just trying to mock me, but all I'm saying, Kevin, is we know everything's on the table that came directly from Cam Neely himself, and it's just something that I'm sure they're looking at all those options. So, what do you think of bringing back Danton Heinen next year? He can play up and down the lineup. He's still under contract with Pittsburgh for next year, so you'd have to make a trade. I don't think you really want to go out and trade for Danton Heinen. If you were getting him back as a PTO option to see if he could fit in the lineup, that's a little bit different. But I'm not giving up any assets to trade for
No.
him. Unless you know what I would consider as future considerations. That player gets moved around left and right, so maybe. But I don't see why Pittsburgh would entertain that. So, also, what about Evander Kane for the last year of his contract? I think that's almost as bad as saying, let's go hire Joe Quenneville. Keep that guy out of the locker room. Now, this is a name that's now started to come around. Steven says, what are our thoughts on the Torts firing? John Tortorella obviously being relieved of his duties in Philadelphia. I know I've seen, it was probably about 2 minutes after that news came out before I saw the first tweet. What about John Tortorella to the Bruins? Dom, thoughts on Tortorella?
I just don't think Tortorella is the type of coach that they need. They need someone young, who can communicate with A, older players, B, younger players, and C, stars. Now, Bruins only have 2, depending on how Swayman bounces back, maybe 3. So Tortorella's not that guy.
Egos.
Yeah, Tortorella's not that guy.
Now, last week, I think it was last week, it might have been the week before, I threw the name John Gruden at you. I got another name for you this week. What do you think about Jay Woodcroft?
I'll have to think about that one.
Okay. Well, at least it wasn't an outright no. So, let's see. Any chance you guys know when Bancroft decision is coming? No idea. I've heard it should be in the next couple days.
Yeah, he just finished yesterday. What I do know and I can confirm is that Brett Harkins, who is the Bruins NCAA head scout, has had a meeting with them, and with excuse me, Don Sweeney was in Lethbridge, presumably scouting Roger McQueen for the upcoming draft. Lethbridge is in Alberta, for those that don't know. So that Evan Gold was, in the meantime, handling the NCAA stuff. So I can tell you they have been in contact.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them bring in Bancroft. It just, there's 31 other teams who'd want to be interested in him too. So he's got to make the decision to sign which dotted line. So Rob also asks, if they hire a new coach and Sullivan is available, would he be a good fit?
I think he would, but my fear is that Sullivan is past his prime. I think they've got to get new blood, somebody with no prior ties to the organization. We don't want a yes man to Don Sweeney and Cam Neely. Coach has to be able to think for himself and be able to tell management, this is what I want and this is what I need. Now go get it for me.
Yeah.
I think Jim Montgomery was not in that category for the most part, and Joe Sacco definitely not is definitely not in that category. Neither is Jay Leach. I don't expect Jay Leach to get the head coaching job either. That's what I'm looking for. There are guys at the college level. There are guys at the junior level that have been there in their jobs for a long, long time. The problem with college coaches is that they're in such a luxurious situation. Why would they leave for an NHL job when the life expectancy of an NHL coach is 2 years?
Yeah, that's. I was going to bring that up with Ryan's question here. A name I've heard thrown out there is David Carlisle, and then it was also asked. The guy from Maine, Ben Barr. Just if you can get a coaching gig in college hockey and your team is relevant, why would you leave it? You're going to make just as much money, if not more so, than an NHL coach, depending on what team, and you have way more job security.
Yeah, you look at Jay Pandolfo. That's a name that keeps going through, getting thrown around. But why would he leave?
Dude's been coaching for 3 years, got to three Frozen Fours. Why is he looking to leave BU? And it's just not. It's just not an appealing thing for that. So Mike says NHL money is much higher, much higher, depending on the college.
Maybe it's higher. I wouldn't say much higher. Again, like Chris said, it depends on the college.
And it depends on which NHL franchise, too. You're not getting the
Yeah.
same amount to coach the Rangers as you are the Ducks.
Yeah. Now, is a 2-year, $2 million contract to coach in the NHL when you're likely going to be gone and out of the league in 2 years worth packing up and moving your family from a position where you could be at for 30 years?
Yeah. Yeah, and if we use Jay Pandolfo as an example, right? He's at BU. Let's say let's just say his salary is $1 million. Is it worth leaving that, like you said, where he could be there for 30 years at $1 million? That's $30 million over the next 30 years. Or is he going to go and get hired by, let's take the Bruins out of it. Let's say the Blackhawks. And in 4 years, be looking for another job and look to have to move. He's moved from Boston now to Chicago, and then now let's say the Bruins are interested, so it's back to Boston, and then now it's out to or he can just stay in Boston and coach at the university. Why would he want to give that up? The assistant coach from the Stars, that's been mentioned a couple times. I know Connor Ryan has suggested him, and then there was an assistant, or he was also an assistant with Vegas when they won. I forget the guy's name. I know I've seen it before. You're not going to figure that one out until the Dallas Stars are out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but yes, as Big Mike says, I definitely want a coach who specializes in player development. Now, that being said, you want that guy down in Providence, and you kind of already have that. That's Ryan Mujanel right now. So, is Andrew Ference a guy looking to work on a coaching staff based on the fact that he did that best snow day ever thing with Nesson? I don't think so, but who the hell knows what Andrew Ference wants? He would have to speak to that one. And no, Michael, regardless of what his reputation is around the league at this point, I'm not looking to bring Claude Julien back. I'm sure he's happy being on that Blue staff.
I think he is too.
And then, Rob, I will let Dom answer your Mark Savard question. Dom, I believe you have had stories on Savard and coaching for the Boston Bruins.
I don't think Mark Savard will ever become a coach in any capacity with the Boston Bruins. I can tell you, I've golfed with Savard on a number of occasions. And the last time I spoke to him about joining the Bruins coaching staff, he was still coach of the Windsor Spitfires in the OHL. And I'm paraphrasing here. He said, I've asked. They said they don't have a position for me at this time. I'm not asking again. Which means he's not going to throw his name in the ring at any time soon.
they would have to reach out to him, and even then, that sounds to me like he wouldn't do it for a considerable offer. So, all right, I really like this question, Michael, and it is a great pivot. Dom, brutal road trip as we talked about. I want to say on average they probably had about 17 shots per game on the road trip. A couple with a little higher than that, and quite a few with only 15. Why aren't they able to generate shots?
Well, talent.
There you go, Michael. That's hockey for a layman. They don't have the talent for it.
Lack. Well, it stems from a lot of things. Well, their inability to transition from their own zone to offense and generate anything on the rush. When they do get into the zone and they're playing from behind the goal line and trying to look up high, lack the defensemen who are either unable to either A, get the puck on target, or B, get it through for any chance to generate even second chance opportunities. Lack of movement, being able to get into open ice. It all stems down to talent.
Yeah, and in some cases they're able to get shots and they're going way wide of the net. They're getting blocked. Like they're just not doing enough to find appropriate shooting lanes. I mean, also, Michael, look at the power play. I think the power play is the best opportunity to see it because they can get set up in the offensive zone on a power play, and then they'll pass it around for a minute and a half. And it just they're looking for the perfect shot rather than looking to shoot. So I also think some of it at this point they're just in their own head. At a certain point they're all
yeah.
A whole bunch of them are just starting to squeeze the stick a little bit more. They're all worried about making the wrong decision, making the wrong play. And, I mean, when the team is in an 0 for slump the way that they are, everybody's frustrated. The frustration is going to lead to some of that stuff. And just, if this team can get another win, then I'm not saying the floodgates open when it comes to victories, but like, if they were 0-5 to start the season, you know what I mean, Dom? We'd be sitting here going, if the team can figure it out, then, like they're not going to go 0-82. So like, it's just a matter of how bad do they set themselves back. This is just happening at the end of the season. They're already out of the playoff push. It just, I mean, how many guys on the team right now are looking to book their vacation with their wives? On the plane home,
exactly.
The wife is sitting there going, do we want to go to this island or this island for vacation this week? Because like, even the wives know, like they're sitting there going, let's start planning our vacation now. So we know what our summer looks like because you're going to have to report back to camp. So the wives are, I don't want to say they're distracting them, but it's just everybody's mailing in it on season.
Yeah. And Matthew Poitras is looking to come back to Ontario where he can legally drink.
Well, he's going to be down in Providence with their playoff push.
Yeah.
So, thoughts on Lysell over the last few games? I know we touched on it a little bit more, or a little bit before, but I've liked what I've seen from him. I really hope they call him back up to play out the string and then let him play down in Providence. I think it'll also help his confidence for Providence.
Everything considered, I think he's been fine. He's definitely not been their worst forward. Definitely hasn't been their best. I think if you average out the Bruins forward, been in the upper half. But I want to see more. It's you have to know. It's funny. Just before he had that breakaway last night, I was just picturing in my head Fabian Lysel's first goal is going to be on a beautiful breakaway uh, goal, and sure enough, there he goes. He's on a breakaway, and had that gone in, it would have been nice.
Oh, yeah.
Um, you know,
I also want to make it clear too, because yes, he's looked good. Like, hasn't made these egregious mistakes. He's still making some, but they're not super egregious. He's looked good. You don't get this Fabian Lysell if he doesn't spend the time in Providence that he did. Period. End of story. The time in Providence helped him mature as a person and helped him mature in his game. And this is why we talk about and stress player development the way that we do. Because
and
he
I
spent so much time with Patrick Brown getting that
yeah,
life lessons.
and I will add this: Fabian Lysell is not a goal scorer. He's a playmaker from the wing, and for him to be at his best, he has to be with a couple of shooters, and he's not playing with shooters. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. We want to see him with Elias Lindholm because, fellow Swede can help him along. And Lindholm at least is capable of covering up some of the defensive lapses.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm willing to live with that because I know he's not a goal scorer.
Right. And I would be willing to look at geeky Lindholm Lysell. You got a shooter on one side, you've got the playmaker on another, and you've got a pivot in the middle who can kind of handle the defensive part and can keep up with the play when it comes to his IQ. Hopefully, physically, he can as well. So, Ferrero, the analyst, said it perfectly. I think not good enough. Are you talking about Lysell's game? I'm not sure what that was in reference to. David, if you could just clarify that. Michael wants to know what a bounce back season stat line would look like for Elias Lindholm next season. Can you put numbers on it? Well, I know you can. You've got the equations, but
no, it doesn't work for the NHL. I don't know what's he got this year. What's his
pull it up this year. I'll pull that up and we'll get to Rob's question. Do we move on from Beecher?
If he's costing more than his qualifying offer, yeah, I'm moving on.
Yeah, give him his qualifying offer. So Lindholm has 13 goals, 25 assists for a total of 38 points in 74 games.
I was going to say, well, I guess 40 points is an improvement.
Yeah, well, so let's say he figured he ain't getting 7 more points by the end of the season. So let's pencil him in for 42 points, maybe.
To consider a legitimate bounce back, it would have to be 60 points.
That'd be fair,
in my opinion.
I would go for something like that. Yeah, at least a 10-point in there. So, let's see. Pittsburgh officially passes us with they just went to OT with Ottawa. There we go. Higher draft pick. Let's be honest. What's that?
That puts us where now?
I will pull that up in a second. David was saying that it's just not good enough for Lysell. What part hasn't been good enough for Lysell? Exactly. I don't remember.
Nobody's a fit for him as a playmaker because there's no shooters besides Pasta.
That's what Bob is saying. I wanted a little more clarity from David on his not good enough. But yeah, what do you think? Because Pasta and Lysell play the same position, so they're not playing together.
Seven. That's good. Let's keep going. Get into the top 5.
Yeah, I'll take that.
And don't hope nobody behind you wins the lottery.
Okay. James has cleared it up. Ferrero was asked by McDonough during the broadcast about Lysell, and he went off how he hasn't been good enough on the boards and has been all perimeter. What do you think of that assessment on Lysell's game so far?
I'll have to go back and look at it because I don't think that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and I don't think that's exactly what we've entirely seen either. Again, we've said that Lysell has more improvement to his game. He's not a finished product, but he's also going to learn more of it by playing in the NHL right now. So I don't know what the criticism is really there. I'm a little confused on that one. So I know this came up earlier. Rob says, any chance that we could get Marner, and would we want him with the Bruins?
I would take Mitch Marner any day of the week. Just I'm not willing to pay what it's going to take to get him.
You don't want to dump $14 million into him?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. Yes, we need to get into the top 5. But again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the draft lottery. So if you can finish 5th or 6th,
you can get into the top 5 and then 2 teams below you win the lottery, and all of a sudden you're 7th.
Yeah. Why no on Marner, Michael? I'm questioning that. I mean, why wouldn't you want this guy on your team, other than the contract? That's the only concern I have is the contract itself. So, I mean, I'd rather they go after a center than Marner. I think that's a bigger issue. I think you've got some wingers who are going to come up through the system in the next couple of years that would be a little more beneficial, and I wouldn't want to block them for 8 years. But we'll also have to see what happens when it comes to a guy like Geeky too. So, okay, Michael, it is just because of the money. So, anyway. But I'm looking forward to the draft lottery just to see where we land. Mike said Penguins have won their game. So let me pull that up. Let's see where the league-wide standings have us right now.
7th. Somebody posted it for us.
This hasn't been updated, so yeah, they would flip-flop, and that would be 7th. So would Clayton Keller be a realistic target for the summer? I don't think Utah wants to get rid of him. What? Do the Panthers, Leafs, Lightning look weaker than this year? For what? Like next year? Is that where you're going with that question? Clarify that, and we'll address thoughts on Ian Mitchell.
Look, I'd rather they fix the top 6, and then worry about your 7th defenseman. I think for now that belongs to Parker Waterspoon, depending on what they do with the top 6.
Yeah. Look, Ian Mitchell's not perfect, but he's also not the biggest problem on the team. So it just, yeah, that's where I'm at right now with him.
Ian Mitchell is in Boston for one reason only right now. And I mentioned it a few weeks ago when somebody said, why is Ian Mitchell getting called up and Callahan being sent back down? It's because they had no transition from the back end. At least Ian Mitchell transition in his game. That's the only reason he's in Boston. The only reason they signed to begin with was because he was a Jim Montgomery guy.
Yeah, and I know some people are going to sit there and say, well, why not call Frederic Brunet up and whatnot? But it just, Ian Mitchell has NHL experience. Brunet does not, and you need the guy that can go in cold, having not played for a little while, because he's not playing every game. He is your seventh defenseman, so it's just yeah. That's what it was. Do the Panthers, Lightning, and Leafs look weaker next season than this season? Well, David, I'll tell you this: it depends on which one wins or gets to or whatever with the cup, because the Lightning are gonna, if they don't make the cup final this year, they've got a lot of work to do on that roster and not a lot of flexibility to do it. So it's going to be interesting off seasons for them, but you got to really see where they get eliminated and how before assessing what they're going to look like for next season. I'd like to see the Bees offer sheet Minnesota to steal Marco Rossi.
So would I.
It would be a hell of a move. Honestly, that would be a nice little vengeance move for screwing up some health stuff on this team between Pat Maroon and Charlie McAvoy. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. If McAvoy and Lindholm are healthy, who do you pair with Lohrei?
McAvoy.
I mean, yeah, I would have loved to have seen Lohrei, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, but now with Carlo gone, would you do Lindholm, Yoki Haru?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it.
Well, you have to see how it looks.
Yeah. Kevin wants to know who's even scheduled to become UFA this year. Any big fish? I mean, there are some names out there, like Sam Bennett, Brock Besser, Jamie Benn. One of the names that I like, obviously, you'd have to free something up in your center position, would be Michael Granlund. But again, I don't see Boston going big fish hunting this offseason either. So why does it matter at this point? It's not like they're trying to win games. Give Renee a look. He's earned it. Mike, you also don't want to shatter the kid's confidence either. He comes in and gets rocked at the NHL level because he's never done it before. Now you're rebuilding the kid's game because he's going to do things that he's not used to doing to try to make up for his deficiencies. So let the kid continue to develop. Dom, any thoughts on that?
No, it's exactly what we said earlier.
Does Mason Lohrei's plus minus worry you?
Nope.
Does any plus minus worry you?
Yes.
In what context? Because I agree with the sentiment that plus minus is a bullshit stat for the most part.
It is.
Without context, let me put it that way.
What is the Bruins collective plus minus? What is their goal differential?
Let me go pull that up real quick. I know it's not good.
I'll tell you when I worry. When a player's plus minus, when their minus is higher than the team's minus.
Goal differential for the team is minus 51.
Okay. So if Lohrei was a minus 51, I would worry.
Yeah, his is only a minus 34. And it's not exactly like you have a great plus minus across the board and he's like, the standalone negative. You only have 4+ players this year. And two of them aren't even on the roster right now. Brandon Carlo was a +2. Jordan Osterley was a +3. Cole Koepke's a +5. And then Nikita Zadorov is a +14. That's it. Everyone else is an even or worse. So, no, I really don't put any stock into that minus. Let's see. Can you say a few positive things about Patrick Brown, the player, the person? I know nothing about him. Michael, we've actually said a lot of positive things about Patrick Brown. He is a fantastic leader down in Providence. It is what it is. So, anything to add?
No, agree. He's great for the young guys in Providence. Look, sometimes guys get an extended look as a thank you for putting in the time down in Providence to help the kids out.
Yeah, being a good soldier.
Yeah.
And that's what Patrick Brown has been. I think Patrick Brown is very much aware that he is not a consistent NHL player, that he has found his niche in the league, and he's embraced that role.
Yeah.
He'll keep getting good, decent money for being able to play hockey. He'll be up and down. He'll get some NHL time. And you know what? As we've said before, you have to build more than just your NHL roster. You also have to build your AHL roster. And he's a great guy to be in the middle of that. So, let's see. I know Mason Lohrei's plus minus is somewhat skewed by an absurd number of empty net goals allowed with him on the ice, but not sure what the number is. I have no idea what empty net goals he's given up. A lot of players have had a lot of empty net goals. I mean, think about it this way. David Pastrnak is a minus 10. 6, 7, 8 players are minus double digits. So, yeah, and Mason Lohrei is going to be the one defenseman out there in all of the goaltending pulled situations this year, especially once Lindholm and McAvoy got hurt. So, I'm not that worried about it. David wants to know why exactly Lohrei would be given so much leverage compared to other players. I'm guessing that's in reference to the contract conversation we had earlier about him getting a bridge deal compared to some of the options for like a Geeky or some of the other RFAs. I mean, why would you want to give him just 1 year? That's my question. I mean, you could go, here's a qualifying offer. I don't know why you would do that. You want to get him under a contract for multiple years. If you do a 4-year contract with the player, and you don't see improvement, you have leverage to move on from the contract because other teams are going to look at him and say, hey, we want to acquire him. So let's see. Letary and Brown getting sent down. That opens up any call-ups on the way. Bob, yeah, we've said that a couple times. Keep an eye out for him. We just don't know exactly who at this point. And then Rob with a great question. Thoughts on Zadorov's play this year?
Look, like anybody else on the roster, they've all had to play above their roles, and that includes Zadorov. Next year, I'm hoping it's different, not just for him, but for everybody else on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing top 4, top 3, we'll say top 3 minutes on the defensive side, which isn't where you want him. I mean, if you have had all of your defensemen healthy this year, he is 5th on your defensive depth chart. He's behind McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and Lohrei. At best, he's 5th. So is his contract a little more than you want for that kind of defenseman? Probably, but the money's already spent. You can bitch about it all you want. Let him excel in his role. If he excels in his role, then who cares what he's earning? And that's the point, is he's playing above his head in his role, and so is everybody. Michael wants to know if there's still potential for Brandon Bussey to land himself in the NHL. I mean, there's always potential.
Yeah, you never say never, but
put it this way, I don't think it's happening with the Boston Bruins.
Yeah. If I were a betting man, I would say it doesn't happen, period. That's what I would lay my money on.
Yeah, he reminds me like I don't even want to go that far, but like a Louis Domingue kind of goaltender. Well, he'll probably play a couple games in the NHL here and there. He'll be a team's number 3 kind of guy, maybe that 3C, 4A goaltender playing in the minors. Will always get through waivers, but you'll be able to call him up and fly him across the country because your goaltender needs to sit out a game because he's sick or something. Like, that I think is where he's going to peak at. Not that he's not good down in the AHL. He's got 289 right now with a 90 save percentage. DiPietro has been the better of the two. Bussy's going to get a string of starts here as they prepare for the playoffs, and God knows how long that string is going to go for because DiPietro is clearly injured. But he still gives up a lot of weak goals. We've done countless breakdowns of the goals he's given up. You can check those breakdowns down on the YouTube channel. Go back to the Dom.Hockey episodes, and you'll see them. There's a lot of goals that he gives up that NHL goaltenders need to save. So,
yeah. So we got to end the show, Chris.
I was just saying myself. The time we're getting to it.
So I just want to say to the listeners that I'm going to have to take a extended leave of absence for a while. Life is in the way. Hopefully, Chris can, get some guests on and keep going for a while.
There are plans for that.
Unfortunately, I have some health issues I got to deal with. I got some family issues to deal with. The political situation is in the world right now is having my employer move operations down to Mexico and want me to go there for 6 months to train people, which I'm not willing to do when I got a 5-month-old sleeping in the next room. Not mine, my grandson. Whole lot of shit going on. The show takes up a lot of my time watching games, getting highlights for everybody. We've been getting some good numbers, and I appreciate that. Appreciate all of you for that. But unfortunately, life comes first, and I have to deal with those things.
Yeah. As Michael says, we're all sending good thoughts your way, your family's way. Like you said, the political situation is having adverse effects in so many ways. And I know how much hockey I watch, and it's a fraction of what you watch. So I can only imagine how much of a toll all that is taking on you. So we are all wishing you the best. And like you said, it's a leave of absence. You and I will still be consulting, and who knows, maybe there will be some times where you're able to pop on here and there for a little bit, depending on how much life gets in the way and whatnot. But yeah, it's there's some additional stuff that I have coming down the pipeline as well, not just for the Bruins stuff. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm only intensifying things, and been in talks with some folks to to keep this going on a hopefully weekly basis. But yeah, just more information. And Tom, from me and I think all the viewers, thank you so much for all that you do. It just, like I know you said it before, you don't get paid for this stuff. It's all in the goodness of your willingness to share and educate on the game. So we can't thank you enough for that. I can't thank you enough for that. And what you've done for the program, as we've been doing this show together now for 4 years?
Off and on, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's been fun. I mean, I'm going to miss it, but um, life has to come first.
absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way, Dom.
I'll still be doing my writing and stuff. Probably not as much, but um, the unfortunate part is I'm 63 years old. I can't say no, I'm not going to Mexico and try and find a new job because no one's going to hire me.
Well, I know that we're all rooting for you. James has it right. Yes, we give you a standing ovation for everything you've
Nah,
done. Absolutely. All the love and support is pouring. I wish I could pull them all up. Everyone's wishing you luck, and like
I
I said, Dom,
appreciate it, guys.
I would never ask you to put the show before your family. Like you said, you got the 5-month-old grandchild. luckily, aside from hopefully the health issues that you mentioned, hopefully that all goes well, and we are able to see you back. So life
I gotta
goes
tell
on. It
you,
has its
I gotta
issues,
tell you
but
a funny story. Uh,
go ahead.
my son texted me Thursday, and my grandson, the oldest, his name is Hunter. He has a friend named Riker, and they were over visiting, right, at my son's, and um, Hunter is always bragging about spending the weekend at Grandpa's place. So when Riker's mom said, "Oh, we're taking you someplace," Riker said, "Oh, do I get to go to Grandpa Dominic's tonight?" It's like, oh. So, yeah, I have fun with kids.
So yeah, it's great that you're taking the time for your family. As everyone is saying, thank you for everything that you've done. I know I can't thank you enough. And like I said, we hope that it doesn't last as long as as long as it could. And yeah, we're all here for you, Dom. Trust me. There's a lot of people who appreciate what you've done.
I
So
believe it. I believe it.
with
All I
that,
can say is ciao for now, guys. We'll be back at some point.
and one last go bees.
Lose bees, get that better draft pick.